G'day and welcome back to the Keeping It Real AFL Fantasy Show. We are back after a 2-week hiatus. Coach Nalvinator and Coach of Spaceman. It's good to be back now. How have you been?
I've been okay. It's good to be back in the studio. It's good to have you fully fit and ready to go.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that in a sec, but I'm feeling good. I'm glad that you're feeling good. And after the 2-week hiatus, it's great to be back in the studio with some new decorations.
Yeah, so we've got the kitty cat behind us. Thought we'd spice things up. You know, maybe feature in the thumbnail. Reach a broader audience, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly as you said. Spice things up so people, they don't just want to scroll and see the same thumbnail for every episode. Now there's a cat, so it might spark a bit of interest and make more people click on the video. That was our thoughts behind it.
Absolutely. So we'll touch on why we've been off for a couple of weeks.
So I'll just say first, to those that watched the Matt Kennedy video, where I alluded to Nalvinator trading in Matt Kennedy as a sneak peek earlier in the week.
Great video. Did you cut that up yourself?
Yeah. If you read the description, I would have mentioned that it was just a sneak peek for our trades this week. Hopefully we'll have a full episode later in the week, but Space is feeling a bit under the weather.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously we haven't recorded since. That was about 2 weeks ago. That was a bit of a white lie. You weren't feeling would you say you were feeling under the weather?
I was certainly feeling under the weather, but I thought you were going to touch on the fact that you didn't end up getting Matt Kennedy in your team that week.
Yeah, so we can go here. We can go here. So you're right. I wanted to get Matt Kennedy in. It was 2 weeks ago now. It's been a while since we've recorded. I can't remember what I ended up doing. I wanted to get Matt Kennedy in. I think I was just scared of Vossi. Vossi's turning into Bevo these days. You don't know where he's playing his midfielders. There's just too many midfielders at the Blues.
Yeah.
Fit them all in.
And I was the exact same. I had him in my team until Friday morning. Yeah. And thank God we didn't get him in. Yeah. Really.
I mean, you'd honestly still look at him. They've got Hewitt out this week. They've got Hewitt suspended, Shearer cast, or the other way around. And anyway, so
Shearer suspended, but Shearer got off. Breaking news.
Didn't know
Shearer
that.
has got off.
So maybe stay away from Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if he's playing midfield, he's literally 100 average.
Yeah.
He's getting 100% of the midfield time. But I can't remember what I did, so apologies to all the fans out there that, of course, would have followed the experts' advice to trade in Matt Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I didn't follow through with it, and it hasn't really ended up being a great pick because he hasn't played 100% midfield time.
Again, the experts got it right, not getting it in.
Yeah, so apologies to anyone out there. But yeah, onto your Space and your recent events.
So basically the reason why I've been off for the last couple of weeks is that I suffered a nasty concussion playing amateur football in the mighty E4 grade of the Perth Football League. Just got a little head knock. Was pretty innocuous, bumped the side of the head, got it a few times before. It's probably my 6th or 7th concussion, which is where I ran into a bit of trouble because I actually played out the game. I didn't really think much of it at the time. I was like, oh, that's a head knock, that's not great. But then the ball fell in my lap straight after and I was in the next play and I was like, oh, I can keep doing this. And then it wasn't until the next day I started feeling a bit under the weather. And then Monday morning, woke up, felt like complete and utter rubbish. And then it basically just got worse from there and couldn't really look at a screen for 10 days for more than 15 minutes without getting a searing headache. Hence why we took a couple of episodes off. But unfortunately for me, it means that I'm hanging up the footy boots, which is, very lucky to have got through 6 or 7 concussions. Not everyone gets that many. So, yeah. But feeling better now. Happy to be back in the studio and start recording and putting out some more awesome content.
So that is breaking news. I wasn't aware of the boots being hung up.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club, by the way.
Thank you.
But yeah, concussion is obviously a serious thing. We don't want to get too hectic onto this podcast, but there may be some people out there thinking that the show must go on, regardless of the concussions. But I do want to stress that it was very important that the Spaceman took some time off and got some rest because it is a very serious issue, concussion. So I'm glad he took the time off, and apologies to the fans for missing 2 episodes. I'm sure they would have been itching for us to put out another ep, but we're back now, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, wasn't an easy decision to hang up the boots, especially seeing that the mighty Mosman Park Mosquitoes are sitting on top of the ladder in the thirds and looking like losing a game and probably winning a flag. But you got to put your health first.
Absolutely. And there's always positives to take out of it as well. So, you'll have more time. You obviously work full time. You're flat out. You won't have to go to footy training on a Tuesday and a Thursday night. You can go to the gym. You can work on that summer rig that you've been talking about getting this summer.
Finally, and they're not made in summer either, mate.
Yeah, so you can work out there. You'll have some extra time on the weekends. You can work on that shocking golf swing of yours.
Absolutely, that needs a lot of work.
So there's plenty of positives that you can take out of it. Important to remember that.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on for that.
Back into the podcast.
Here.
Let's go.
I just wanted to touch on something.
Now, buy rounds.
Well, yeah, coming to the buy rounds this week. I'm currently not highlights hunting, so obviously didn't have a good start to the year. Team is humming now, we must say.
Sorry.
That's what you were saying. No. We don't have to get into
A notification came up. My space is fine. Do you want to talk about it?
No, we actually don't need to talk about it at all. Let's just talk about the buy rounds and talk about how you're highlights hunting, mate. How exciting. So what's your current rank at the moment now?
So my current ranking is in the top 2,000s. So, yeah, pretty happy. I've gone up in ranking every week except one.
Nice.
I didn't have Atkins and Fiorini, so they went bad last week, so I missed out on that. Rose up the ranks a little bit. Had some good scores, and yeah, I feel like I'm well placed. Highlights hunting might be a stretch. Top 2,000, I'll need some good buys, but definitely hat hunting, I'd say. So it's an exciting time. I've never been in this position before. So,
So how are you setting up for the buys?
No, I haven't put too much time into it. Every time I do have the fantasy coach, the $20 thing that you pay, so you can check the buys and all the colours.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I look at it, it doesn't seem too stressful. It always seems like it's reasonably even.
Yeah.
And you've obviously got the 3 trades to make, so I feel like I'm reasonably well set up. But yeah, exciting. Next month it'll really test me, and curious to see how I go.
Yeah, mate, it's looking forward to it. Like, first time you've been challenged in this, or been put in this position. For those of us who aren't highlights hunting, I'm using the next 3 weeks, as I always do, setting up for a big second half of the year. So, mainly just to get my league right. We're talking about Classic, of course. So the 3 trades over each for the next 3 weeks really gives you an opportunity to fill in those gaps or get rid of those players who've been sitting on your bench that you haven't been able to get rid of since round 1, i.e. Bailey Laurie from Melbourne.
He's still on your team.
He didn't go up in price. It's been a flat 200k. I don't know what you do with that. You can't downgrade. So we'll be getting rid of him this week.
At least you had Will Kelly last year, who was 210. You could downgrade that at least.
I don't know what happened. Why I didn't get rid of Will Kelly last year. There's a bit going on. But so really good opportunity for the rest of us coaches to put our best foot forward in our leagues going forward.
Yeah, no doubt. So if you are a member of the Ashton and Friends Keepers League, I'm sure, you might be a little bit flat around the amount of random chat that we do, rather than specifically narrowing in on specific teams.
Mm-hmm.
If I was watching someone else's podcast, I'd probably want them to talk about my team a bit more. So what I thought we'd do, now that we're at the buys, it's a good time to sort of stop and I guess assess where everyone's at, review the ladder, review some of the good picks and the bad picks. We're scrapping everyone's favourite segment. I can't even remember.
Gurus, Child Prodigies and Heartbreakers.
Yeah.
Put it to the scrap heap along with Charlie Constable for me this week.
Yeah, that segment just lost some momentum. My internet's struggling, but we're trying to get the ladder up. And what we're going to do is go through the best picks and the worst picks so far this season. So, do you want to go first? Yeah,
so I'll talk about best picks and worst picks from the draft that we did before round 1. So my best pick was by Lanch's Hole Destroyer, and that was John Newcomb at 67. So, John Newcomb was sort of thereabouts the last couple of years, looked like a promising player, and has just gone gangbusters this year, and he's still very young, so he's got a bright future that will only climb from here, and I think getting him at 67 is an absolute steal, and you'll expect him to be in Lanch's hole for the next few years at least. But yeah, he's my best pick of the draft crop.
Yeah. So my best pick is going to Tickle My Taranto.
Ooh, Tickle.
Who's off to Europe tomorrow. So
oh boy. Enjoy European summer.
Might have to download the podcast. It'll be out tonight, so we can download and watch it on the plane, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, kudos.
Just binge them all on the plane tickle.
No doubt. So he's got the best pick, in my opinion. Harry Sheezel at pick 112. So
yeah, it's hard to go past that.
It's a pick for now, and it's a pick for the future. Oh. And he's got forward and defender status, so can't go wrong with Harry Sheezel. He's the best pick.
You know, I even maintain that forward and defender status for next year to turn out, which is super exciting for Tickle. Now let's go to the worst pick. Now, there was a lot to choose from, and I feel like I've gone for the lowest hanging fruit here. We've been targeting him all year, and that's Harry Perryman at pick 43 by Pet Money Sniper. He's had, to be fair, he's had one good game, got 115, but I think he's just averaging 60, 70 odd.
Well, he would have had a donut for a hammy in round one.
Oh, true, he got two in round one. But yeah, he's one of those middle-aged players. I don't see that much growth in him, to be honest. So yeah,
I would probably challenge that.
Okay.
With similar to, firstly, he got the insight from Hogan, didn't he?
Hogan's man.
That he was, through Hogan.
Yeah.
So that he was tearing up the preseason. Obviously, they've had the mids leave in Hopper and Taranto, and it was probably going to be Perryman and like Tom Green to step up. So he's had a bad run with a hammy coming back. It's been interrupted. So at this point, yeah, you could argue it's been a bad pick, but at the same time,
it was his first midfielder.
Yeah, no, 100%. Too early, but I still think the jury's still out and he could have a bright future ahead. In fact, I'm positive he does have a bright future.
We'll watch his space on that one.
Okay.
Over to you now, Vanada. Who was your worst pick?
Worst pick 3 in the draft, Bailey Smith from Spaceman.
Yep, that's a reasonably fair call, I'd say. Pick 3. I got excited because he's just fucking a handsome rooster, and he looked so good last year before he got in trouble for having a bit too much fun. So yeah, he had a slow start for the year, like we touched on earlier, or maybe touched on later. Lukey Beveridge likes to play people out of position and was playing him as a forward for the first half of the year.
So you know more than the coach of the Western Bulldogs do?
No, I'm just saying that he, as a permanent midfielder, scores astronomically better than when he does as a fledglingly half forward. So he scored 67 last week, but he's coming off 3 consecutive tons. So he did find some form after he came back from injury. So I'm hoping this is just a mulligan, this 67 in this new run of form that he's having.
So you mentioned you got a bit excited about his good looks, Bailey Smith.
Absolutely.
Right, at pick 3.
Yeah.
I see Dry Simpkin in your midfield as well.
Another couple of
Yeah, so was that a factor in your drafting?
Simpy Boy, maybe it's subconsciously. Look, it's hard to say no, because I've also got Josh Dacos, who's not a bad looking fella either. But
Tom Stewart, depends on your type.
Shannon Hearn as well. But then Luke Jackson and Jake Stringer sort of balances it out, doesn't it? And Zach Price.
I didn't think we'd go in this direction.
And what were we talking about?
We're talking about
your worst pick, yeah. Bailey Smith. Look, he's still young, and to be honest, I'm still bullish on him being a 110 averaging player at some stage in the next couple of years. So I think, similar to what you said about Perryman, still lots of room for growth with Bailey Smith.
Yeah, no doubt.
And forward status as well. We can't go past that.
Good point. So now I think we'll go into our own sort of best and worst picks. I couldn't split the 2 best ones for me, so I'm going to give 2 mentions.
Jeez.
One.
Pretty happy with yourself then, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with my team. I reckon I'm looking pretty good. So, Zeeble.
The Bull.
I told you before where he was in the draft.
Did you write it down on the run sheet?
No, I didn't. Is it IE or EI? It's
IB.
IB. So Jack Zeeble was pick 199 in the draft.
Yeah, that's it.
And I know he's old.
No, it's a good pick.
But he's a forward back, and he's been one of the best forwards or defenders this year. So he was a bargain buy for me. And the other one, Nick Dacos, say no more.
Yeah, absolutely Nick Dacos. But I don't know much about Zeeble. When you picked him up, were you like licking your lips that he was still there, or were you like, oh, might as well?
No, so I had the plan of like getting these old guys to potentially just be good for another year or two. But I knew Zeeble was, playing backline, and last year he played forward. But 2 years ago when he played backline, he had those enormous scores. So I knew he had the scope to potentially go big again in a poor backline where there's a lot of balls, or a poor team where there's going to be a lot of balls. So I can't say I was certain he was going to go this well. Obviously, I took him at 199. So, but yeah, I thought it was a bit of a risky one that could have paid off, and it has.
Yeah, he's paid absolute dividends, hasn't he? You said he drew with someone else. Who was the other one?
He drew. Oh, Nick Jacobs.
Sorry, I should have been paying attention. Sorry, I'm concussed. So, yeah, there are best and worst picks of the draft. Actually, no, we haven't talked about our worst.
My worst was Heaney, by the way.
Yeah.
He's shocking.
Heaney, yeah.
He should be playing more midfield as well.
And he did play midfield on the weekend.
And he went okay.
Went head-to-head with Cripps, though. It was a bit of a tag and roll.
Yeah, Dream Team, he went okay. I just think he's a midfielder. He's like Toby Green. Like, he's got the ability above his head. Like, he's a good forward, but I think is he Sydney's best midfielder?
Callum Mills when he's fit. Errol Gordon.
Yeah, they're great. Is Heaney better than them in the midfield?
No.
You know, reckon?
No, not even close. It's
I reckon he could be.
No.
But Heaney's a better forward, obviously, than those guys. Or back than Mills.
I think he's a great player. I think maybe his best is like Jake Stringer type. Just burst out of the stoppage, be a ball at the stoppages, then move forward. So when those big kicks come in, he can be strong overhead like he always is. Because he's still such good value up forward, particularly for Sydney, who've been struggling with Buddy being out. I know he's back now, but Logan McDonald being out, Sam Reid being out.
Marty Party, I think.
The Marty Party's out. So he's been almost like their main focal point up forward for the last 5 or 6 weeks. We actually didn't even touch on my worst pick.
I was about to ask you, we haven't got to it yet.
No, we haven't got to it yet.
Matt, you sure you're feeling better?
I'm not too sure, actually. It's been a couple of weeks as well. It's a bit rusty.
Did you pick up Jake Waterman before or after you got the concussion?
Before, and then he got me 100, mate. So relax.
Okay.
And he got 84.
Another one, Jake Waterman. I shouldn't have asked.
Yeah, well, it's just a cold take from you, to be honest. My worst pick has been Jaden Stevenson at pick 123. Started to actually find a smidge of form the last couple of weeks, but he's firmly sitting on the scrap heap, I believe, unless someone else has picked him up. So I got rid of him after around 5 or 6, and he was just doing absolutely nothing for me. I don't know, I thought with Clarkson coming in, he could reinvigorate a bit of life into Stevenson, and being slim pickings for forwards at the start or during the draft, I thought he's someone who could turn into a premium, and I actually thought he was a value pick at 123. Which just shows...
Could have got Zeeble.
Could have got Zeeble. But yeah, so Jane Stevenson, former Rising Star winner, is my worst pick.
Yeah. What do we got next? So usually we ask a few special skill questions. And as the frequent listeners of the show and the podcast would know, my special skill is AFL players' heights on AFL tables.
And getting them wrong.
And getting them within 1 centimetre.
And getting that wrong.
By the way, Tickle My Taranto, who I was watching the footy with on Sunday, asked me, he asked the room, geez, that Samson Ryan, he's quite tall, isn't he? How tall do you reckon he is? And I went, mate, 206 centimetres, lock it in, check AFL tables, 206 centimetres. And I know that doesn't mean much, I could just be making this up, but ask Tickle My Taranto.
Alright, everyone, we'll put Tickle My Taranto's phone number in the show notes, you can all call him and ask.
Send him a text while I was in Europe. But yeah, to be honest, it was frustrating nailing one when it wasn't getting recorded on a podcast. But I maintain that it is a special skill, and I am good at it, getting within 1 centimetre. Space's special skill is, what is it?
It's All Australian team post 2004.
Didn't you say post 2005?
I'd say I'm concussed.
It's not that special of a skill, given it's not every All Australian team. When did they start? In the 80s? 70s? I reckon 80s it would have started.
80s. They did something like slightly different. It was like a few players. But anyway.
What I was getting at
was
we need to do a challenge of which special skill is better. And I don't know if it's going to be the winner or the loser, but one of us is going to attempt to get on Hamish and Andy's podcast and put our special skill to the test.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. This is news to me.
I thought I'd surprise you on this.
Well, Hamish and Andy, if you're listening, 2004 All-Australian team and beyond.
But, I feel like, I reckon if you go to Hamish and Andy and said, my special skill is All-Australian teams push 2004 or 5, they'll be like, mate, that's not give us every year.
Yeah, look, I'm a man of many skills. I can do better. I'll find a more specific skill, or I can just do a bit more research on the all.
Yeah, you can research. It's easy to research AFL tables heights. I reckon. I don't know if we do a challenge and maybe the loser has to go on the show because it's a pretty daunting thing to do.
No, I'll go on the show if I lose. If I win, I want to go on the show.
Oh, now I kind of do as well. So I don't know how we're going to do it. Leave a comment on the YouTube video about who should go on the Hamish and Andy podcast, how we should decide it. But that's something to stay tuned and you should say.
Yeah, and just to give you a little taster, I'm going to throw some some names at Nallin and see if you can get that
right now.
Okay. Right now.
So this is what you might see on Hamish and Andy's podcast in a couple of weeks.
Okay. So he is a young up-and-coming star and one that you should know. His name, Edward Allen. What do you Google?
I'm joking. He still doesn't have an AFL tables. He doesn't play the game. But I can give you the height that'll be on Collingwood or Google or Waffle. 194.
I want to see if you can just see AFL tables anyway.
No, you can't. They have to play a game.
194 is correct.
It's not that hard.
It's not that hard because
it's not that hard
because he's your brother.
Because I know all the WA draft days from last year.
Alright, we'll give you another one now, Nader. Noah Anderson from Gold Coast.
Interesting one because if you remember in our footy chat, I claimed that Noah Anderson would be better than Matt Rowell a long time ago because of this reason. Noah Anderson is
deceptively tall.
Is much taller than Matt Rowell.
Mm-hmm.
He is 192.
192, and we're giving what within 1 centimetre
on AFL tables, yeah.
Or 2 centimetres.
No, 1. That's as far as you go.
Or maybe 4 centimetres because he's 188 centimetres now, Nader. Mate, we're not getting anywhere near close to Hamish and
You threw me when you said deceptively tall.
Yeah, well, mate, you shouldn't let me influence you.
Because I thought he was 188, and then you said...
Oh, shut the... Mate, alright, well,
nah.
That was 4 centimetres off, mate.
Nah, to be fair, I did... Yeah, I was thinking that's probably too high.
Oh, now after I told you,
it is easy in hindsight.
Alright, one more I want to give you, because I can't, just recalling him, I can't recall whether he's a tallish or smallish player. Ash Johnson, your brother's teammate.
Really good question.
Let me just cover up my screen.
Over 190.
Deceptively tall, maybe?
I'd say deceptively short.
Oh.
192.
And what, we're going within 1?
Yeah. But I reckon it's 192.
Do you think Hamish and Andy will accept within 1 centimetre?
I think they'd be more willing to accept that than post-2005.
I don't think we take any chances here, Navigator. I think you just...
But if I studied, I reckon I could get every player. Exactly.
Well, Ash Johnson.
192, check it.
193.
Within 1 centimetre, thank you.
We're not getting on to Hamish and Andy with that.
Yes, we are.
Anyway, that's all the time we have for guessing AFL players' heights according to AFL tables for today. You got one who was 4 centimetres off.
But you threw me.
Well, Hamish and Andy got to throw all sorts of things at you to try to get you off your game, mate.
Nah, to be fair, I would have said 190 at minimum anyway with Anderson, so I would have been wrong still. What's next? So I've dropped the breaking news around going on Hamish and Andy, so we'll tee that up for next week, hopefully.
We'll be on Hamish and Andy next week.
Yeah, we'd have to get the audio clip. I don't know. It's still in the
works. I think we've still got a long way to go before we get
No, that's kind of the joke. Because if you're not good at it and you stuff it up, it's like embarrassing going on a podcast and do it. So that's why the loser of the challenge has to go on it.
Yeah, I'll be studying. Anyway, so that wraps up breaking news. And what we're going to do now is that we're going to jump into our very special guest interview. Someone who's not in our league, but very insightful nonetheless. So we'll just cross over that one now. Alrighty, and welcome to our very special guest appearance for today's episode. We are joined by none other than Coach Fraser of FreoFlagInbound, all one word. Welcome aboard, Fraser.
Thanks, guys. It's a very big honour to be here.
Beautiful, mate. Are you a big fan of the show? Been listening?
I would feel comfortable saying that I am the show's longest running and biggest fan.
Is that right? What makes you say that?
I think I'm the most active on the YouTube channel. I've got the bell on. And I have commented a few times.
Subscribe.
I have subscribed.
Yes.
I was one of the first subscribers, I believe.
Is that right? Wow.
This might be a dumb question for someone that runs a YouTube channel. But what's the bell?
The bell?
Yeah.
So it's this thing that you should put on if you want to be notified about the upcoming podcast. It's essentially a little button. It's down near the subscribe button.
It is.
Where you can choose to get notified when a new video is released.
There you go.
It's very worth getting on.
100%. It's a way YouTube try to jip creators out of getting views and making money. So obviously we're not making any money off this YouTube channel just yet.
How does it jip them out of
because it doesn't notify audience members. If you just subscribe, you've got to ring the bell. It's something they introduced a few years ago.
Okay.
Little fun fact for all the fans out there, particularly you, Fraser, number one fan. Anyway, we'll jump into the questions, mate, and thanks again for giving us your time. So, your team name, FreoFlagInbound, tell us how you came to that one.
Well, long story, really. I am a long-term Fremantle Dogs fan.
Okay.
It's been a very rewarding experience supporting that team over the long term. But I think that our elusive premiership is somewhat close, so I thought FreoFlagInbound was a great way to sum that all up in one word, especially given the last few weeks of footy. I think we're on.
Yep, spot on. I'd say probably, out of all the guests we've interviewed, I'd probably have that in the top 3 or 4 names, I'd say.
Creativity's right up there, for sure.
Much better than Asher Lanch. But, Fraser, we just wanted to get your sort of opinion on how your season's gone so far. I'm not sure if you started the season when everyone else did in round 1. Is that true? And how's your season gone so far?
Yes. So after listening to the pod, the first few eps, I decided to come out of fantasy retirement.
So we inspired you, you're saying?
Yeah, you could say that.
Wow.
Do you want to toot your horn too much? But yeah, after listening, I thought I'd give it a crack. And I joined in, I think, round 4, which, looking back, might be why I am 0-8 in my league. So I joined after I've been informed all the rookie prices rose up, and I missed out on a lot of cash. And that has really impacted my team, as I'm sure that you can see.
Well, for sure, but I think it does give you one of the more unique teams in the competition, and the best way
It is unique.
It is unique, and the best way to get ahead, I feel, particularly as we get into the later rounds of the year, is those unique players, those unique premiums. And we've noticed that you do have a few of those. And I just wanted to ask you, your selection of Bradley Hill, did that have anything to... Because he's stung me big time in the past that we've spoken about multiple times on the pod. Did that have anything to do with his previous affiliation with the Fremantle Dockers?
Okay, so full disclosure, I picked Brad Hill before listening to one of the more scathing podcast reviews from you as of Brad, but I'd already locked him in, sadly. There was a bit of a relationship with Freo and Brad Hill that I took into consideration, and I thought that I'd hold on to him to prove you wrong, which has not actually gone super well. So that was my reason for getting him.
So while we're sort of dissecting your team and going through some of the individual players, as you mentioned before, it's very important to nail your rookies and get those cheaper guys that are going to make you some cash. So I did notice your bench and had a look through those type of players that you have, and I noticed one that was a bit surprising to me, James Blank. So I just want to get your thoughts on James Blank and
see a bright future for Blank.
Yeah, he's probably a bit more of a lockdown defender. So how's he been scoring for you, and where do you see his future in the game?
Well, as I'm looking at his percentage ownership of 1.8%,
I thought it'd be lower.
I figured that, number one, I could afford him. I tend to, every year, stack my team of 22 with 18 players that will play every week, ideally, and I don't really care care about my bench minus Ed Allen, who's going to be a star. So it kind of leaves me with a few niche players to choose from, and I thought Jay Blank had a great name because I blanked on knowing who he was.
We'll have a pun on the pod, Fraser. Nicely done.
Did you come up with that before the interview or on the spot?
It was one of the many things I prepared. I thought that was one of the best. With average points of 27, I think there is value to be made on Jay Blank. I actually genuinely don't know his first name.
I think it's James.
Yeah, James.
But yeah, who knows? Bright future ahead. Hawthorn are a young team full of up-and-coming young stars. He could be in that intercept marker range. I don't know. I haven't watched too much Hawthorn footy this year, but
so he should really come in handy because, as I'm sure you're aware, it's the bye month coming up this month. So these kind of rookies, you can't have these red dots that are sitting on your bench because they're going to be needed on your field to get hopefully a score of 27 that James Blank's averaging. So how are you prepared for the buys in this upcoming month? And is it something that you've put a lot of thought into?
Looking ahead, I did know that the buys were coming up. My league that I'm in is not counting the buys, which we figured out this week. So that really helps my team strategy because I had none coming into the bye round. But I was actually going to ask you guys what the go is with bye week. Like, do I get more trades? And because I'm not actually playing fixtures, will I just get sort of 6 free trades or 4 free trades without actually playing a game?
So to answer one of your questions there, Fraser, you do get an extra trade for these 3 weeks. So the next 3 weeks you'll have 3 trades that you can do. And so in your league, because you're not playing buys, and for all the audience members out there wondering, there will be no game, so no points will go to your ladder, but your total points will still count. So in Coach of Nalvinator and I's league, we're also not counting the buys. So what I'm doing, considering I'm not Hilux hunting, is just getting my team ready for when the bye rounds finish. So I'm using these next 3 weeks to prepare for round 12 or round 13, 14, whenever the first round is back for the normal season.
However, if you are still well and truly in the hunt for the Hilux, like Nalvinator is, this is where the boys separate themselves from the men. In fact, the men separate themselves from the boys, I should say.
Yes.
So it's a massive opportunity for Nalvinator, where in the past I probably would have thought you're a bit of a loser if you're taking the buys a bit too seriously. But this year, it is something I'm definitely putting a lot of time into because, like I said, I am well and truly in the hunt for the Hilux.
Absolutely. And best of luck to you as well.
Thanks, Bess.
Just on the talk of trades, Fraser, have you taken a look at, the trades this week? You got 3 that you can choose from. Anyone you're looking to get out? Anyone you're looking to get in?
I am looking to actually quick sell a few of my players that have been bugging me.
Yeah.
So I know Coach Nalvinator is not a fan of this, but I'm going to be quick selling Cosy Pickett. I know that you're a big fan, Coach Nallen, but he has just been burning a giant hole in my forward line ever since I decided to pick him up.
Showed promise at the start of the year too.
A great start of the year, hence why I put him in my team as of round 3. And since then, I believe he's averaged around about -15. So it's really quite frustrating.
This might be a topic we have to take off air because for some reason I'm all of a sudden the biggest Cosy Pickett fan, which I didn't realise I was. I think he's a great player, but I'm not sure what the story is there. I think there's been some chat around me being a big Cosy Pickett fan. I think
the Cole brothers were particularly large fans, or not particularly large fans of Cosy Pickett. And there might have been an altercation.
I think I took exception to it.
I think there was an altercation between one of the Carls and yourself last week watching the footy, but we won't get into that. That would be an off-air chat, and perhaps the lawyers will get involved. But yeah, anyone else you're looking at other than Cosy Pickett? Is Brad Hill going to hang around?
Brad Hill, I feel like I've come this far with him, and he's actually had an okay at least last week. Wow, he's only owned by 2% of people.
Sure.
A lot of money left on the table out there in the league. But no, I'd like to, I guess, give a special shout out to Horn Francis. I believe he was on the fringe of getting cut out of the FreoFlagInbound team, but in recent weeks he has really turned it around, and I believe this is just the beginning for the Horn.
Absolutely, that's a great call by you, Fraser.
Thank you.
Yeah, great call. Now, just to wrap up, this is a pretty broad question, but we do have a lot of guests on this podcast and all from diverse backgrounds, so everyone has different views on AFL fantasy. But Fraser, as coach of FreoFlagInbound, I want to know your overall fantasy philosophy. What are your do's? What are your don'ts? What are your overall thoughts in building a premiership fantasy side?
Right, sure. Great question. I think my number one philosophy going forward, I think, is going to be to make my team before the AFL season begins.
It's a great little pointer, yeah.
I think that is something that should be strongly emphasised to anyone playing fantasy. Other than that, my philosophy, and I stand by it, despite my current overall rank of 133,900, is that could be towards wooden spoon territory. So despite that, my philosophy is to trade in players that have averaged a high score the week before, because they're going to be up and about, and they're definitely going to play the next week unless they get injured. And I think just keep it simple. It's my strategy, and that's probably why I'm 0-8.
Yeah.
So.
It's a very unique perspective, Fraser, and we're all about unique individuals here on the podcast. So we really
It's full of a mess.
we really appreciate your time. But one last thing before we let you go. You claim you're the number one Keeping It Real AFL Fantasy Show fan. What have you liked most about the podcast so far, and what's one thing you think we can improve on?
Wow. Just narrowing it down to one thing I've liked the most is going to be almost too hard.
Too hard.
That being said, I think I laugh the most and get the most enjoyment out of the pod when Coach Nallen is guessing the heights of AFL players, and Ace, you are just giving him the hardest time for being within 1 to 2 centimetres. I struggle not to laugh at that. And want to give Coach Nallen's, I think, well-deserved praise for what I think is a great special skill.
Couldn't have said it better.
Nothing to improve. God, it'd be great if you guys had some merch, but I'm not sure if you guys pay yet.
Well, that's something definitely on the agenda.
Yeah?
Yeah. Keep cups.
He loves spending money space,
I'd love to see like a rolling, continuing all-Australian team that you guys sort of can debate on, and who you think should come in and out each week. But you do have such a jam-packed schedule that I think you guys overall are doing a fantastic job. You got me back into fantasy, and I believe you would have reached a few fans out there like me that you would have done the same too.
Well, if we can inspire just one more person to join up to AFL Fantasy, that's all that matters, mate.
We've done our job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all we have time for today, Fraser. So, again, just appreciate your time. Thanks for being our number one fan, and we look forward to reading your YouTube comment when we upload the next episode.
Guys, it was an absolute pleasure to be here, and happy to come on whenever. And, yeah, keep putting out great content.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
He was a good guest.
Really insightful. It's great to have a fan, like someone who's like a proper fan on the show. I feel like when we're speaking to him, he speaks the same language as us, knows what we're going on about.
Yeah. Now, my highlight was throwing in a bit of a rogue question around his philosophy on fantasy.
Yeah, fair to say I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. He has a great ability of talking while saying nothing to answer that question.
Yeah.
He just kept on going about not a hell of a lot, but it was a really good way to buy time to think of an answer.
Yeah, it was keeping it simple, I believe.
And he finished with keep it simple. So he didn't actually say a lot in that whole time, but it was good. He thought on his feet and was a good guest.
We tried us something, to be fair. Yeah. Cool. Let's go into our classic trades for the week now, Nader. So your highlights hunting, as we've discussed. Who are you looking at to keep the hunt alive?
Yeah, so I'm very open to the fans, and as I said, I do apologise for the Matt Kennedy stuff up that I had the other week.
Lie.
No, it wasn't a lie. I thought I was trading him in at the time. Just connecting to the hotspot. Internet's no good. But I had a bit of time, so you got a joke for us?
No, well, how about I just talk about my trades
Yeah, you go.
instead of with a joke. What I don't have is Zach Merritt, and I feel like he's someone that I need to have in my team. And I'm just contemplating whether I sell the farm, as they say, to try to get him in. But there's another Zach who's really attractive to me at the moment. It's funny I say that because I just called him ugly earlier in the show, but that's Zach Butters. And I think at 50k less, he's someone who I can probably get in this week and just make my forward line just look super, super sexy. So Connor Rose is my worst forward at the moment, and it just makes my team so much more visually appealing. But I'm trying to see what I can do with some players on my bench, like getting rid of Bailey Laurie and Elijah Hewitt for some... Look, at the moment, I've got Josh Fahey and James O'Donnell. There's both 200k flat. That's not going to be there come Friday. But
if there's no other rookies to get,
we'll improvise. Look, it could be there come Friday, but I'm hoping that it's not.
What about? Oh, did you get Geelong Irishman last week?
I got him last week. Yeah.
So Atkins, you're trading him. He's got his bye in a few weeks.
I'm not considering buys.
Oh, true.
So Rory Atkins scored a 30 last week. Got me 200 odd K, 150 odd K for me. Went up 1K last week. You'd expect him to go down in price this week. Will Ashcroft I'm going to hold on to. I don't know. I feel like in the second half of the year, I think he can average 100 and be a unique player for me, considering most people are getting him out of his team, out of their teams. But yeah, basically that's it for me. Just trying to shore up the stocks come round 14.
Yeah, I've got a similar view on Ashcroft. So last year I traded out Nick Dacos way too early, and he ended up going hundreds and 90s after I traded him. So that was really frustrating. And I saw on Twitter someone was talking about Ashcroft. Obviously, everyone's trading him this week because of his buy, and he's gone up in price so much. But he's got the Hawks when he comes back, I think, and then he goes all Gabba games where he averages 100. And he's got the Saints away where they give up a lot of marks. They're an easy team to score against. So I feel like I want to keep him as a point of difference, as you said. But my trades, I think Laird's going to be suspended at this stage as we record. So he's out for Doherty in the back line with a few switches. Ollie Hollins.
Is Doherty the third player you've traded out and traded back in?
He is.
Interesting.
With Will Day and Tom Green.
That's very interesting.
And I'll be trying to get in Laird and Clary again at some stage as well.
Well, I'll let you continue.
So Ollie Hollins for Ocean Mullen. I think that's how you say his name.
Ocean.
Asheen?
I think
so I was talking about this on Hardball Gets.
Oh, really?
I always say this, and then you say, I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet. I usually listen to them later in the week. But there's an Irish name called Rasheen that's spelled the same way his is, but with an R in front of it. So I just
Rasheen. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said
Rasheen.
Something like that. Anyway.
Rasheen.
And in the last trade, I don't know yet. I don't want to throw the fans off. And don't say you didn't do a placeholder trade, because I seriously have no idea. I want a bit of mid-price madness in. So I'm debating a Greenwood. Luke Jackson is one I thought of, but he's got to buy. Luke Jackson with Darcy out. But I want a bit of mayhem in there. Get a mid-pricer guy to separate.
Luke Jackson in your ruck?
No, forward. He's got both. Forward.
Yeah, no, I was thinking you said with Darcy out. Oh, I like out.
So he scores more.
Scores.
But yeah, not sold just yet. Hopefully Laird gets off. It'll make things easier. But Ocean Mullen, I think everyone will be getting him. Asheen. And yeah, I want some mayhem in there. If maybe even Matt Kenzie.
Oh, don't tease the fans again. What about Bailey Humphrey?
It probably still makes sense with his break even and buy, but I'm going to be stubborn and say I've already missed the boat. There's no point. Even though in theory it's a sunk cost, what he's already gone up. Like, even though I've missed out, it's still probably a good move, but I'm stubborn and don't want to do it.
He's a good one to have in your team because he's a fun player to watch. I don't know if you watch a lot of Gold Coast games, but when Bailey gets the football, it's exciting. And it's the same thing for Bailey Smith with me. I just want him to get the ball in his hand, so I want him in my team. And so watching the Gold Coast Doggies game, which I actually didn't watch too much of, the highlights at least, it was great to see him with the ball in hand.
I'd say the same with Matt Johnson. And he would have been one, if we didn't scrap the child prodigy of the week, he would have been mine. So apologies, we have scrapped that segment.
Honourable mention for Matty J.
So I want to shout out Matt Johnson. He looks really composed and scored a 68 with a free kick against. Should have been a 70. He got a
So
slide.
are we going to say everyone who gets a free kick against should have been an extra 3 points?
You're right. That sounded like a stupid statement,
It was a stupid statement.
and it was. But that is because I believe it was a 50-50. It should have been his free kick for a slide in like below the knees, but it was like a high for the opposition. So it should have been a free 4 plus a kick, but it was a -3. So it should have been a better score.
Did you see him almost about to sling tackle someone again and then stop mid tackle?
No.
Oh, it was because he got suspended 2 weeks for doing one of the worst sling tackles.
I think Cozzy did as well. I think Cozzy did something similar like that game.
Yeah, because I can't remember who he tackled, but he picked it up and I was like, oh no, and then he stopped halfway through. I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
So it's good to see the rules working.
We need to talk about Cozzy Pickett off air, by the way. I still don't understand this chat.
Yeah, we'll take that. Could get a bit frisky.
Big calls?
Yeah, we'll jump into them. So, big calls from last week. 2 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. Start us off with you, mate, because yours was a bit of a dodgy one.
Yeah, it didn't come off. So I had Finn McGinn. No. Well, let me explain
So
myself.
just not say his name's Finn McGuinness.
I initially had Finn McGuinness to tag Clary to a sub 70.
Mm-hmm.
That is without Finn McGinn being in the side. And then I realised he didn't play VFL the week before, so I changed it to Cooper Stevens to come into the team and get 20 touches, and he did not come into the team or get 20 touches. So I was wrong.
Do you know who went to the VFL like that?
No.
I don't either. So, yep, didn't get that one right. So you're 2 from 8 still. Mine was Noah Anderson to be the most expensive Dream Team player by the end of the round. And he was 40k off Taranto, I think it was. Or Clayton Oliver. And he was playing West Coast that week. And I was like, oh, he's going to go gangbusters here. And he ended up with a score of 82 and didn't really do anything. So I also got that one wrong. And I continue to be 1 from 8 this year. Making some extremely bold calls in those predictions if you do recall.
I would challenge that, but
A lot bolder than yours would be. We'll just say that.
I disagree. The fans can comment what they think.
The fans already know, mate. They don't need to waste their time commenting.
Okay, this week's bold call for you. You go first.
So my bold call for this week is someone who's been in my draft team. So Willem Drew, I picked him up off the scrap heap about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and just as some midfield depth, I really wasn't going to play him, but I've noticed a pattern since I picked him up. So the first week, I picked him up after he scored 123 against West Coast at Adelaide Oval. Since then, he's gone 67, 102, 77, 106, and 50. So he loves playing at Adelaide Oval.
Have you checked that that's actually Adelaide Oval games?
100%. It's all Adelaide Oval games.
Okay. So, does it say the ground? Well, it might not be. It might have been a showdown. There could have been a double up at away or home. Or
I don't know. I don't have assistant coach, but 100% is Adelaide Oval. So I remember thinking back on those games, watching them.
Okay.
So, yeah. So he scored 50 against Richmond at the G last week. He's at Adelaide Oval against Hawthorn next week, and I think he's going to go 120 plus is my big call.
So your big call,
bold prediction,
is that he's going to go maybe like 8 points above his average in the last 3 at home?
Is a man averaging 76 who got 50 last week is going to go 120 plus.
But his last 3 at home, as you said.
I don't think anyone would be saying that Ranger Drew will be going 120 plus this week.
No, because I don't think it's ever going to cross anyone's mind to think what he'll get this week. But I think my prediction this week is bigger. So a lot of talk about... No, I disagree again.
Absolutely.
Anyway, a lot of talk about Carlton at the moment in the media.
A lot of talk.
Getting smashed. I think a little bit unfair.
Extremely unfairly, if you ask me.
So they've lost to Sydney, who, they're not going great. They just beat North Melbourne. It's a fair enough cop to be. But before that, they've lost to Collingwood. They've lost to Bulldogs. They've lost to someone else who was pretty good last 3 weeks since smashing the Eagles. Brisbane. They've lost to some good teams in the last month. It's not like they're losing to crap teams. So a little bit harsh. Understand the media's going to talk about someone, but I'll get to my point eventually. It's Harry Mackay to kick.
So another bold prediction with Harry Mackay involved.
Yep. So I was right on the last one. So obviously a lot of talk about his goal kicking, snapping, drop punt, and all the rest of it. He looks a bit down on confidence. So I'm going to say Harry Mackay is going to kick 2+ goals, him out, and 0 points and 0 out on the full. He's going to kick dead straight.
I love it. I got to say, that's one of the best predictions I've heard this year from you, mate.
Okay.
It's just a little bit off kilter. It's not like scoring points or anything or scoring like fantasy points or anything like that. It's topical.
Topical key.
Yeah.
Unlike Willem Drew.
Well, I think I've done some topical ones in the past and made some bold predictions. I'm going to take it a bit easier this week.
Okay, fair enough.
So, yeah, love that. And to be honest, for Harry's sake, in the media, I hope he does kick 2 goals straight at the very least.
Yeah.
Because I think, Carlton fans are actually just quietly the biggest sooks in the world. Like, they can just get over themselves.
Nah, they've been pretty poor for a while. I think it's fair enough.
Oh, the fans have been pretty poor for a while?
No, the team has been pretty poor for a while. They'd be frustrated.
They played well on Friday. They played well on Friday night against the Swans. Like, they were by far the best team for that game. They just couldn't capitalise on the scoreboard.
I'm completely contradicting what I said a minute ago, but the Swans just beat North Melbourne and they're going shocking at the moment.
Yeah, but the Blues were playing like some of the best pressure footy I've seen this year against the Swans. But yeah, we're getting off track.
Yeah, we don't want to get the footy heads on. We're not AFL 360. We're a fantasy show.
Certainly not footy classified either. But
Wrap.
That brings us to the end of the run sheet. So that is a wrap, mate. It's good to be back. I'll leave you hanging for a few more seconds. Yeah, just looking forward to. Well, mate, you've thrown me off now. Okay, we'll wrap it up. Thanks everyone for joining us. Same time next week.
Yes.
Shit.